allows you to study and maintain full-time employment. Apply now for a Diploma in Monitoring and Evaluation, Diploma in Conflict Management, Diploma in Leadership and Management, Diploma in Humanitarian Logistics, Diploma in Community Development, Diploma in Grant Management, Diploma in Disaster Management, Diploma in Water, Sanitation and Hygiene, Diploma in Gender Development, and Diploma in Food Security and Nutrition in Humanitarian Emergencies. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.eu for more information. Take action and register today.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're logging from. Welcome again. It's always a great pleasure to have this session to support our community in their development work. My name is John Karegwa from Strategia Netherlands. I'm the training director. And today we have a session on monitoring and evaluation, an introduction on monitoring and evaluation. We realized that sometimes we have webinars talking about logical framework, metrics, monitoring and evaluation metrics. But today we decided to go back to the basics so that those who are not versed in M&E can get the basics from our professionals. And just before I introduce the guest speaker, presenter, I would like you to log in and tell me where you're logging from so that we can welcome you and welcome your country. So right away, just indicate in the chat room where you're logging from and I can welcome you. I can see Sudan. Thank you. Sri Lanka. Thank you very much. Pakistan. Thank you very much, Pakistan. Kenya. Thank you. Somalia. Thank you. Ethiopia, Ghana, Zambia, Nigeria. Thank you. Indonesia, thank you. Malawi, Pakistan, Gambia, Rwanda, Burkina Faso, Tanzania, Nigeria, thank you. Kazakhstan, South Africa, thank you guys. Bangladesh, thank you. Always a pleasure. Eswatini, Lusaka, thank you. Thank you very much. Malawi again, Pakistan, thank you. India, thank you very much. Chad, Niger, thank you. Morocco, Maina, thank you. Nepal. Awesome. We already have in the house 270 people in the first 5 minutes. Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to serve this community. And thank you, Ethiopia again. Thank you. DRC Congo. Thank you, India. Welcome, India. Sri Lanka again. Thank you very much. And without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Joyce Ngugi, who is our presenter today, to take us through the introduction to monitoring and evaluation. And then please mute your mics so that we can all focus to do the presentation, and then we'll open the room for questions and answers. And I hope you prepare your questions. So thank you very much, Dr. Joyce. Welcome, introduce yourself, and let's get moving. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity once again to be in this worldwide global community. It's always a pleasure to share my thoughts on the topic. And I'm so pleased to see all these introductions from across the world. It's really amazing. I'm very privileged to join in. I have been in the field of monitoring and evaluation for a couple of years now. I am a psychologist by training. So I study the brain and human behavior, and I do clinical work. I am also a research specialist. So I have a consultancy where I mentor early career scholars, researchers, and people in general who are curious or interested in the field of research. My latest foray in the field of monitoring and evaluation has been based on a lot of the national mental health programs that we have been setting up in Kenya, East Africa, where I am. I was part of the National Mental Health Task Force that brought about our action plan and a presidential decree that created an entire national mental health action plan. So the idea of monitoring and evaluation, hopefully today will be demystified as we go into that. So just a disclaimer, you might find my bias in the topic being generalist or also from the field of health, social sciences, population health, which is the kind of work I have done in the past. I hope you can hear me all right. Let me just increase my volume.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Wonderful. So I would like to share my screen now. And the topic is Introduction to Monitoring and Evaluation. You expect to at least get a primer. I'm going to switch off my video so that we share the bandwidth. Thank you. So there has been quite a number of approaches on defining what monitoring and evaluation is. And a scholarship approach will be drawn from the guide or the so-called Bible of project management. Some of you who are in the M&E field already know the PMBOK guide, So a guide to project management body of knowledge, PMBOK, PMBOK guide by Robert Wysocki. This is considered to be a universal standard on defining project management. And I'll reference throughout my presentation from this main source. So there is a scholarship, there is a body of knowledge on monitoring and evaluation. And how do we define monitoring and evaluation? It is a scheduled intervention in an ongoing activity, project, or program. The idea of ongoing activities, projects, and programs being monitored, and the completed versions of the activities, projects, and programs being evaluated either in their entirety or in phases, all right? So as I said earlier, a lot of literature has been written and is being written on monitoring and evaluation, and justifications are being made to treat monitoring and evaluation not as a separate process, but as a compound process, okay? So in this presentation, we shall take an anecdotal approach, and I would like to tell you a little story that I want you to keep in mind, and at the end, we will have the completion of the story. So I'm going to say the first half, and please listen very carefully. So a story is told of a renowned mason, a mason who builds houses, who was asked by a real estate developer, because he had built very many houses for him, to build one last house for his retirement. So before the retirement, a real estate developer asked a mason to build one house, scenic house, best house for retirement. The house was scoped or estimated to cover a total of 30 meters square of land. That's a very big acreage. So this house was planned as a huge mansion, 3 bedrooms, and all the bedrooms en suite was a bungalow using the best quality material and furnished with antique items. So just imagine a retirement mansion, okay? And so the real estate developer asked the mason to complete this building in 6 months and then hand over the house, right? Now, in the absence of the client, who is the key stakeholder, in this case, the real estate developer, what did the mason do? The mason exchanged the top quality material and the antique furniture with fake furnishings and pocketed the difference in the price. We are all very familiar with what happens, especially with corruption in projects. So keep this story in mind as we proceed with the presentation. I hope you all heard the story. We will come back to see how it ended at the end of this presentation. So, definitions. All fields, all disciplines use some jargon words, terminologies to communicate. And there is a host of words here you can see on the screen. Mastering the jargon helps in getting accurate meanings, because these words are used very specifically. They are like symbols, all right? So we want to define the key terminologies used in management, project management, which is the overall body that domiciles monitoring and evaluation. So what is project management? So we will borrow the project management definition of activity. So it is typically one stage of a project management plan. So each activity consists of one or more actions that upon completion will lead to the next project stage. So taken together as a series, the activities will result in the final deliverables. So in your own words, can you define what a project is? So I've already just mentioned what project management looks like. Can anybody type in the chat, what is a project? So I'll say project management again. So project management is one stage of a project management plan. And each activity consists of one or more actions that, upon completion, will lead to the next project stage. So taken together as a series, project management is all the activities that will result in the final deliverables. So what about a project? Let's see in the chat if anybody can define what a project is. Aha, I see. It is anything that has a start and an end. Muhammad Hassan, interesting. Abid Hussein, an activity with specific objectives, budget and deadline. Lizo Sibanda, list of activities with defined timeframes and objectives. Project management. I asked for project, not project management, but thank you for that, Prudence. Okay. Muhammad Tahir, a task to be completed. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Keep them coming. So what is a project? Let's see. Hamayon. Project is a temporary effort undertaken to create a unique product and services. I love all your definitions, Zainab. Was making a comment there. Ronald says a project is any activity with an intent. I see you're paying attention. Very well done. And I'll give the PMBOK definition of a project. A project is a sequence of tasks that must be completed to attain a certain outcome. So it's any temporary endeavor with a definite beginning and an end. Depending on complexity, it can be managed by a single person or hundreds of people. So, a project can be large or small. So that's a project. So thank you so much, everyone, for all of your comments. I haven't seen anyone that is off. You've really, really gotten it, what a project is. Now let's go to a program. What then is a program? We've defined a project. A program is a set of related measures or activities with a particular long-term aim. So it's more than one project that's managed together. You'll find several projects can be under a program. Okay, I just mentioned being in the Kenya National Health Mental Health Program. And we had a series of projects under that program. So therefore, out of that, now tell me, what is program coordination? Okay. Somebody can tell me what program coordination is. Let's see. I'll just take a few responses, not everyone. Program coordination. Somebody is mentioning program. I don't know if it's the same as program coordination.
Program coordination is when you coordinate.
All right, I'll please request that you, thank you so much, but I'll request that you raise your virtual hand so that we have, scheduled answering. Thank you so much. So that brings us to what is monitoring and what is evaluation, And if you think of the analogy of a road with some bumps, you can say that monitoring is checking how the journey is progressing at each stage. The evaluation is checking at the very end, actually how the outcomes of this journey were. So if you think about it, there is a difference between monitoring and evaluation, although those terms are used interchangeably a lot of times. Then what is a scope? A scope refers to the completeness of a proposed activity or project or program. It refers to metrics, the height, the length, the depth, and the duration, okay? So that's the scope of the project or program. What about the quality of a program? A project promises to deliver scope and quality. Quality is the desired output from the undertaking with all the intended attributes functioning as planned. In other words, quality is fitness for use, right? So those are some terminologies. As I said earlier, every discipline has those words we use to create very precise and accurate kinds of, I see more and more people offering to give definitions. They are all right, very well done, everybody. I think we are all on the same page. So, important questions that can help us understand and master the concepts of monitoring and evaluation. Why is monitoring and evaluation important as a process in project management? Okay, so we talk about the functions and the importance of M&E. And then we will also ask what the components of an M&E system are, goals and objectives, what we call indicators, data collection methods, data analysis, reporting, feedback and use of results, and resources. Those are really important questions to ask as we go on. And remember that we will be looking at each one of these in turn, right? So a few more words, a few more concepts to look at. Then obviously, how can we use M&E? How can we schedule it into an ongoing project or program? Then what insights can we draw from available literature? That's really important because I said at the beginning that we do have a scholarship approach to M&E. Are there any arguments justifying the case for treating M&E as a compound process? Remember we said at the beginning, justifications are being made to treat M&E not as separate processes, but as a compound process. So what arguments justify that? Okay. So remember that we can go back to the story of the mason who was asked by the real estate developer to build him one last house before he retires. And if you remember that story, that was supposed to be a beautiful mansion, a retirement space. And so we can conclude that story at this time. Then we'll go back to the functions of each, So the mason completed the house and was ready to hand it over to the real estate developer who contracted him. However, when he handed over the keys, the real estate developer asked him whether the mason had any house for himself. The mason, on replying that he had never built a house for himself, the real estate developer handed the key back to him and told him that all along he had meant for that house to be a gift to the mason. Now, what is very surprising is that we know that the mason had changed all of the materials from perfect materials to very low-cost materials. So the mason accepted the keys to the house, but was very, very sad and started crying. Why is that story important? If you have a project, a building, and you're not actually taking any active indicators on the progress of that building, you risk having a building that has poor materials. So that takes us to the functions and process of management. So we talk about 5 functions of management. Let me see if I can get that slide. The 5 functions of management have been identified by management scientists. These are planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. For the purpose of this presentation, we will only focus on the first and the last function. So we'll only look at planning and controlling. Remember, the field of project management is very wide. We may not be able to cover every single thing in this introduction webinar today. So let's talk about planning. What does it entail? How is monitoring and evaluation key to planning and control? So, you know, like all human beings, managers think in pictures, seeing the image of the future they desire. And so a plan sets up a vision for what you want to see and the steps to get there. So it can be argued that organizations also think in pictures. That is why they set up a vision. Planning is the organization of those pictures into sequenced actionable thoughts. So remember the 5 W and 1 H questions. These are also called journalist questions. They are also called the 5 wives and 1 husband question. The questions that illustrate the planning process. That is what, why, where, when, who, and how. So we've got to think about how to sequence actionable thoughts. That's the plan. And you know, we say, if you want to fail to plan, then you're planning to fail, right? And so planning is very, very important in M&E. So what about controlling? I'm just going to look at the second function of management. As a management function, controlling appears in planning the moment the manager sets objectives. So after the major vision, then we have objectives. And then we have activities and desired outputs and outcomes. Controlling determines and enforces the boundaries of any undertaking, such as scope, budget, time, indeed even the quality, actually. So it is about setting the objectives, activities, and the desired outcome. So when we've talked about planning and controlling, now we can go back and look at in the process planning, talk about, remember we had defined scope earlier. So what is the importance of scope in the process of planning? We had already said that scope refers to the completeness of a proposed activity, project, or program. The metrics, the height, the length, the depth, the duration. So a scope is a statement that defines the boundaries of the project. It tells us not only what will be done, but also what will not be done. Scope defines the conditions of satisfaction of the project. A plan is only possible on an agreed upon scope. So you cannot really have a plan without an agreed upon scope. A lot of times we want to know in which geographical boundary, you know, for instance, okay. So we got to do what we call defining the conditions of satisfaction of a project. So in the project management process groups, planning the process group comes after scoping the process group. So we have to know that after scoping, that's when we can actually plan and plan effectively. So I hope up to there, that's pretty clear on the scope as related to the plan. So now let's look at implementation. Where does implementation stage fall in the project management process groups? So remember we said that project activities refer to what is done on the basis of the project plan. So in project management, it is what is done during the launching process group. Project activities lay the foundation for determining the project schedules, and the individual outputs of every activity contribute to the project scope and the deliverables. So if you can see the arrows coming down there, each activity is a component of the project with a number of tasks. So taking the example of the house, the mason was paid to build, and he was supposed to use top quality materials and excellent furniture, antique furnishings that were high class. Implementation is therefore the first activity whereby he had to lay the foundation, and it was only going to be completed with a series of tasks such as excavating the land, okay, securing the land, filling it with stones and concrete, the process of building a house, and then mixing and pouring cement, etc. So now we are talking about how to do implementation, all right? So we do the scoping, we do the planning, we launch the process group, and then we have all these activities that are scheduled and tasks, right? So back to the same, a project, therefore, is a unique experience that has never happened before, nor will ever be repeated under the same circumstances. So temporary work effort with a clear beginning and end. I'd already said that. That's the other definition of a project. So it's an effort to create or modify a specific product or service. So a project is a sequence of unique, complex, and connected activities that have one goal or purpose, and that must be completed by a specific time within the budget and within specifications. So connectedness implies that there's a logical or technical relationship, okay, between pairs of activities. So these connected activities is what makes a project. So there's an order to the sequence in which activities that make up the project must be completed. So they are considered connected because the output from one activity is the input to another. For example, building the house, you have to start with the foundation. So you must design, for instance, a computer program before you can program it. All right. So you could have a list of any unconnected activities that must all be completed in order to complete the project. For example, consider if you want to talk about painting a house. Of course, with some exceptions, the room can be painted in any order. Just painting which is disconnected is not the same as, is not considered a project. If the interior of a house is not completely painted until all its rooms have been painted, painting the house is a collection of activities, but it is not considered a project according to the definition, right? So projects must have a single goal, and they must have a customer or a client, right? A program is a collection of related projects. So I hope you see now where that falls. The projects must be completed in a specific order for the program to be considered complete, because programs comprise multiple projects. They are larger in scope than a single project. For example, a mental health promotion program might consist of, a range of community outreach projects, household, door-to-door sensitization, maybe community trainings, all of them being projects. So unlike projects, programs can have very many goals. And so now let's talk about monitoring as a control measure. So what activities can we say entail monitoring in the process of project management? Remember the analogy I had given earlier of the journey and the bumps on the road, and monitoring how the journey is progressing. So we talk about some concepts like tracking, reviewing, regulating progress, initiating changes. All that is in the space of monitoring. As a monitoring and controlling process in project management, monitoring concerns itself with tracking, reviewing, and regulating the progress and performance of the project. It identifies any areas in which changes to the plan are required, and it initiates the corresponding changes. So it's the idea of monitoring the process. The monitoring and controlling process not only monitors the work being done, but also monitors and controls the entire project efforts. So sometimes you have projects that have multiple phases. So in multi-phase projects, the monitoring and controlling process group coordinates project phases in order to implement corrective or preventive actions. So it's about course correcting to bring the project into compliance with the project management plan. For example, if you have a missed activity finish date, it may require adjustment to the current staffing plan, for example. Okay, the idea of reliance on overtime or trade-offs between the budget and the scheduled activities. So monitoring all these things, how are we doing with the budget? How are we doing with the time? How are we doing with the objectives? How are we doing with labor personnel, staffing? How are we doing with time? Do we need overtime? All of these things are the process of monitoring. You can't monitor and control a project by simply reading reports, There is an acronym, management by walking around. You have to walk around and personally check the progress. In the case of the house, what did the real estate agents, as the client of the mason, need to do? I mean, they trusted the mason with all the money, and they did not do any fact finding. But a lot of times organizations will be very scared when they see a monitoring and evaluation professional coming in, and you'll find them saying, oh, there's the M&E guy. But remember, monitoring is about fact finding, not fault finding, right? It's about just checking the scoreboard and seeing how a project plan is going, because a project plan is a system. So as such, it can get out of balance, and you need a get well plan to be put in place in order to restore the system to equilibrium. So the longer the project manager waits to put the fix in place, the longer it will take for the system to return to equilibrium. So the controls are designed to discover all the out of balance situations early enough, and so that you can put in intervention measures or get well plans in place quickly. So we talk about the entire process of monitoring as being quite vital to projects. So as we said, in the story of the mason who messed up his last assignment, what should have been done is some fact finding and to restore the project plan to equilibrium. If the real estate was around, the real estate agent would have noticed that actually there are some very cheap materials being used, yet I gave a lot of money for the house, for the retirement mansion. So that would have assisted to return the project plan back to its original plan. So that is the purpose of monitoring in project management. So we talk about the checklist, okay? We need to develop a guiding checklist with some items on it. I see about 4 items, not 3 items there. The project plan, the project cycle, the monitoring plan, the methodology of extracting project progress information and extracting findings. So it is clear now that before monitoring, there has to be a project program, a project or an activity. And before an activity, a project or a program, there has to be a plan. In this case, we call it the project plan. And before commencing the process of monitoring, a checklist must be developed. And the first item on the checklist is the project plan. The other item on the checklist is a monitoring plan. So you will find that a monitoring plan has what is to be monitored, why it has to be monitored, when it has to be monitored, where the specific area of monitoring is, who the specific persons to be involved in monitoring are, and how the monitoring is to be done. So obviously, the next item on the checklist must be the methodology of extracting the required project progress information and documentation. the findings. So we talk about getting the checklist, and the checklist is the plan. It has all these guiding, documents. And so one such methodology would be just a list of questions with yes and no answers. Has this been done? Has this not been done? Okay. The same questions could be asked verbally with the resultant audio recordings transcribed later into a report. And because most of the reports are written reports, but you'll be extracting information from conversations from people, you can always download an app, even on your phone with an audio recording feature in order to quickly be able to transcribe all of that. And so we talk about, obviously, the process of designing an effective M&E framework. But before we go there, let me just talk a little bit more about the methodology. The project plan is the baseline for monitoring. It provides what should be looked out for during monitoring. Since all projects are designed to deliver predetermined outputs and outcomes as a result of specific inputs into a process, the monitoring process must seek to find out the correctness of the inputs and the outputs. So as we said earlier, this can be done by personal observation, walking around. It can also be done by asking questions of those involved. It can be done by reviewing of project reports. At all times, evidence of what is claimed must be requested for and provided. Effective monitoring covers the outputs or products from the project and the process of producing that, but also the process that was used is also very carefully documented. So methodology, I needed to emphasize that. And so that when you're documenting the findings, you have on-site findings that must be documented in real time, faithfully, and any clarification of what is not properly understood must be done on site. And then when we have reporting of findings, the findings from the monitoring exercise are to be reported formally in a prescribed manner. It must be addressed to the relevant personnel, and it must clearly highlight the findings, make conclusions, and make relevant recommendations. So we know that evaluation is a confirmation measure. So the evaluation process is something we can also look at. So obviously we talk about the process of designing an effective M&E framework. You determine the purpose and the scope. You develop a theory of change. I'll not go so much into that. This is an introduction class. You develop the M&E plan. You develop a data management plan. You determine the resources needed. Then you develop the M&E implementation plan. And then you develop a quality assurance plan. How can we check for quality? So now let's move to project evaluation. And I can see quite a lot of comments. Thank you so much. And now we are going to talk about the evaluation process. Opinion is divided about when a project may be evaluated and who should undertake the exercise. From the scholarship in the field of project management, when a project has phases, the completed phases may be evaluated while the project is still ongoing. So we can talk about phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. A project team member may rationally evaluate the completed phase. The exercise to evaluate the entire completed project is seen to be more objective and credible when undertaken by a person or persons not connected to the project's team. So a lot of times you'll see organizations will outsource an evaluator, and that evaluator will be evaluating the outputs, the outcome, and the impact of a project. So what is the purpose of evaluation? Project evaluation is a control measure where findings documented in the monitoring stage are analyzed to determine what works and what can be improved. So project evaluation seeks in a very systematic way to determine and assess the extent to which the merit, worth, and significance of the completed project has been delivered. So we want to check the project and determine what works well and what could be improved in a program. So we check for several components, okay? The relevance, the efficiency, the effectiveness, and efficiency and effectiveness are different. The coherence, the sustainability of our project, okay? Then we talk about the checklist. So what was required in preparation for monitoring is equally required in evaluation. So we also have an evaluation checklist, just as we talked about a monitoring checklist. And for the methodology of evaluation, just like in monitoring, what was required during monitoring is equally required during evaluation methodology. And obviously, again, documenting, reporting, all of these things, just as we had mentioned them in monitoring, are also activities that are done in evaluation. So we have to have a checklist, a methodology, a way of documenting findings, and a way of reporting the findings. So obviously, we talk about types of projects evaluations. We'll not go into this. Again, this is an introduction webinar for some of you who have never been in an introduction to monitoring and evaluation course. So we have some types of project evaluations like formative evaluation, process evaluation, impact evaluation, outcome evaluation, summative evaluation, cost benefit analysis. Those are just some types of project evaluations that we have. And obviously, I've already said these are the 5 main characteristics or purposes of project evaluation. We are checking for relevance. How relevant are the outcomes of the project? Then I had said earlier that actually effectiveness and efficiency are slightly different terminologies. Can somebody tell us the difference between efficiency and effectiveness? Are the meanings the same? When we talk about project has been efficient, what are we saying? These are not the same thing. I see already some comments. Let me see if you're alert, if you're still in the Zoom room. Okay, I see a lot of comments, but I think you're still thinking about the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, I'll tell you. If efficiency and effectiveness are not the same thing. So efficiency is defined as the ability to accomplish something with the least amount of wasted time, money, and effort. Okay. Or competency in performance. You do something efficiently, you can do it really fast and really well. But effectiveness is defined as the degree to which something is successful in producing a desired result. So when we talk about effectiveness, we are really talking about success. Okay, has this been successful in producing a desired result? You can have a lot of effort, but which is actually nowhere in the ladder of, what we would define as a successful thing. So that's the distinction between efficiency and effectiveness. And so we want to check for all of these things in project evaluation. And I see a lot more definitions, really well done. Efficiency has to do with cost and time frame, Mildred Shabangu says. Effectiveness has to do with quality and success. Yes, that's right. Clement says efficiency is competence in completing an activity with the least resources and time. And Regina says effectiveness is to do with technical soundness. Oh, I like that. Those are all quite accurate. So I went to the conclusion, I'd already told you. So remember the Mason who was assigned one last project before his retirement, got that retirement house as his gift. The Mason had used substandard materials. He used a lot of corruption, and he changed the costs of the items used to build the house. He ended up tasting his own bitter medicine because the real estate manager decided to give him that house as a gift. All right. So it's quite, that story hopefully illustrates that M&E is a field that is here to stay. It is very important to keep monitoring and evaluating our projects throughout. So I have some references here. You can see the last two are the Bible of project management. So if any of you have never been in any monitoring and evaluation or project management kind of a class, you can check out the PMBOK guide. You'll find how to purchase it from Amazon online. I use the 4th edition, but there have been more recent editions actually. It is published by the Project Management Institute, which, as I said, has a global outlook for standards in project management. So those last two there are the seminal references for this presentation. Thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take any questions or comments. Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you very much,
Yes.
Dr. Joyce. Very straight to the point. So now we'll prepare to take some questions. Prepare your questions. But the best thing is you raise your hand so that then we can acknowledge you and then take your question. But before that, I'd like to invite Kennedy. Kennedy, are you ready to tell us about the courses you have? Then we can take questions. Kennedy, please. Regina, please allow Kennedy to share his presentation. Just 3 minutes.
Hello, I have a question.
Yes, we are coming to you. Just hold your question for 2 minutes. Kennedy, please go. Regina, please mute everyone. There's a lot of noise in the background.
I have muted everyone. I think it's clear now.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Kennedy Matengo from Strategia Netherlands, a training manager, short courses. So I want to take this opportunity to briefly take you through our short course programs, which we have launched, and I'm going to share a screen with you in a short while.
Hello. Hello.
Hold your questions, Smritan Hasna.
Yes.
Hold your question for a minute.
Yes.
We'll come back to you shortly.
Okay, thank you very much. It's really a good presentation. I have a question to ask you. There's this monitoring and evaluation is complete with this right now. You know that the fourth industrial revolution is starting on. Hello, can you hear me?
Hold your question. Hold your question.
Yes, my question is there. How
we'll take your question first. Give Kennedy 2 minutes to do a presentation. Okay, Kennedy, go please.
Thank you so much. I believe you are all able to see my presentation, the slides on your screen I have shared. So thank you so much. So this is Strategia Netherlands. And just allow me to say something briefly about Strategia Netherlands. I know we are an international organization with a mission of making development and humanitarian work more effective. And this we can only achieve through developing and implementing high quality consultancy projects and delivering innovative capacity building solutions to United Nations agencies, governments, non-governmental organizations world over. Now, we have introduced short course programs, and these ones are meant just to improve the skills of professionals that are already in these areas, to bridge any skill gaps they may have, as well as boosting their confidence in their lines of duty. Now, allow me just to share with you a list of those short courses. As you can see on your screen, we have a number of them, 12 in number. So as you can see on your screen, we have monitoring, evaluation, accountability, and learning, which is more advanced. We have project management for development professionals. Then we also have, of course, a short course program on USAID rules and regulations, that is grants and cooperative agreements. Now we also have water and sanitation as another of the short course programs that we have. Then we have, of course, grants management for those that are dealing with, of course, non-governmental organizations. Remember, we have talked about grants management, of course, based or on the context of USAID, but we also have grants management for any other person who may not be dealing with the USAID. So we have proposal writing and fundraising, which is a very important cause, especially in terms of donor funding and for those that are seeking for funding from donor organizations. We also have project cycle management for project managers, project leaders, and any other individual in the line of project management. So we have procurement and supply chain management, a very important cause, especially in terms of procuring things that may be used by your organization. We also have fighting fraud in NGOs. We know fraud in NGOs is a thing, is a big thing that can interfere with the life or existence of an organization. So it is very important that we really know how to tackle these in our organizations. We have, again, budgeting and essentials, which is also key, especially when you are planning your finances as an organization. Now, those are some of the courses that we have currently or we offer as Strategia Netherlands. Now, allow me to briefly mention something about certification. Now, what happens after you have successfully completed a short course with us as Strategia Netherlands? Now, upon completion of these courses, Strategia Netherlands will award or issue a certificate of merit to all the participants to show that they have attended a training somewhere in their particular area they will have chosen as individuals. Now, pricing and discount is a very important thing. Now, these short courses actually go for 415 euros per person. And Strategia Netherlands encourages teams or groups to attend these courses together, because if you do so, then you get a discount or a waiver, a 10% waiver of the amount that is charged, of course, for the course. And this in groups of 5 or more. So it would be more affordable for groups or organizations that would want to have their staff trained to partake of these courses in groups. Now, what are the commencement dates or the starting dates? Now, we are launching the first batch of these trainings on 1st of April, just 2 weeks away from now. And these courses will be running monthly, every 1st of every month, meaning the first batch is 1st of April, then we are having another one on 1st of May. That way until the end of the year, until we come to the end of this year, that is the calendar year. Now, what are some of the delivery methods that we use as an organization to deliver on these courses? Now, we know these are not academic courses, but these are courses that are offered to people that are already in the field, that are practicing. So we may not use the academic approach, but I want you to know that these courses are purely online. We offer them through Zoom sessions, which is an equivalent of face-to-face. As you can see, you are able to see me as I do this presentation. Now, these Zoom sessions will be having what we call breakaway sessions for assignments. Now, learners can have a chance to discuss, of course, various issues regarding their training or various issues regarding the content of the course that they are currently taking. Now, we also have, of course, professional facilitators that will be guiding you through this training. And of course, learners are expected to engage in writing what we call reflection papers. That is, we want to see whether you have really absorbed what you have been taught or what you've been taken through. So you simply write a reflection paper to prove or to show that you have really mastered what has been delivered. Now, what is the duration of these courses? Now, these courses will be running for a maximum period of 1 month, that is 4 weeks. And we'll be running them. We'll be having, of course, sessions every week for 4 weeks of 3 hours each, which is sufficient to deliver the content that is provided. Now, we have an offer. We have an offer for those who want to study with us, especially for those that are attending this webinar as we speak. If you register with us today of April, then you will enjoy a 20% discount. Now, all other students who may have not attended this webinar as well enjoy a 10% discount on what is charged. Now, how do you register? For registration or more about this course, you can simply send us an email .nl. When you do that, we'll receive your inquiries. You can make inquiries and ask anything, respond to your questions or your needs. Now, thank you so much for your time. Once again, my name is Kennedy Matengo, the training manager, short courses Strategia Netherlands. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Kennedy. So let's go straight to questions. And Regina, please remove the slide, and let's take the first question from Smritan Hasna. Please unmute Hasna,
yes,
so you can ask this
yes.
question. Please proceed,
Yeah.
Hasna, and make it brief because there's a big queue for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. It's a very good presentation. I am working as M&E and knowledge management platform in Bangladesh. And my question is there, you just tell all these things is also efficiency, effectiveness, relevance, and sustainability. You know that right now is also going on the fourth industrial revolution. All this process and all this works is also going on by IT and computer clouding system. So if the traditional M&E want to face this, overcome all these problems, how it's this completely the ICT background or another basic background? So it's the comparison. I think if the M&E is also overcome those techniques during 4I activity, is that need ICT background for M&E or other relevance background? That was my question. Thank you very much.
Dr. Joyce, did you get the question?
So on that, of course, yes, I did.
If I am not the
obviously
background of
with the fourth industrial revolution, we have advances in technology now.
Yes.
Sorry, are you still asking, or have you completed your question?
Yes, but if M&E is also
all right.
Yes, I'm hearing. I'm hearing. Okay, you may proceed. Okay.
Okay.
Hello.
Let me proceed. Okay, thank you. So in the fourth industrial revolution, of course, we know we have to integrate IT. So we now have a fusion of advances, for example, artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, Web3, blockchain, just a lot of things going on. And obviously IT has become, I think your question is also like a comment. There is the core scholarship on M&E that you can master, that will be timeless, whether internet comes and goes, technology. But I think we can use a lot of the current technologies to improve our M&E, especially on speed, things like speed, scaling up using technology, and hopefully with the fourth industrial revolution, we can even do more large-scale big data kind of, monitoring and evaluation. So I think the fourth industrial revolution does provide us really good opportunities, for quantum computing, many technologies, 3D stuff. These have become indispensable to modern life. You really need all of these things now. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you very much. But which technology is best for the? But my another question is which technology is the best for the M&E professional for facing this fourth industrial revolution, please?
the role of ICT can be in all kinds of formats, including softwares. Now we have softwares, in the past we would do it manually, but now we have softwares that can run large projects and assist you, in getting more accurate results, and when you're using, softwares, it reshapes even how you do the entire, like, for instance, implementation plan. But we always say, even with the Industrial Revolution, it's good for you to understand, the basics, and then you can use technology to augment, what you're saying. So you can check up online all kinds of different softwares that help with M&E work. It's just an example of how we can use that.
Thank you very much. Let's take the next question from a lady so that we are balanced. Elizabeth Kimulu. Regina, please unmute Elizabeth Kimulu. She's next. Elizabeth? Elizabeth, are you there? I can't get Elizabeth.
There was.
Have you unmuted her?
Questions typed in the.
She's on unmute. I don't know. We can't hear her.
Okay, let's take someone else. Halima Ahmed. Please unmute Halima Ahmed. Is right on top. Halima, please go. It's noise.
Can you please explain the concept of M&D in the context of project management?
Please stop moving. Did you get a question?
Halima, but there is a static on your audio. We can't hear you very well.
Imagine
Regina, please mute your microphone. Let's get someone else. Joyce, can you respond to the questions on the chat?
Yes, let me do
Please,
that.
let's
So the
start
first
there.
question on the Q&A was from Ahmed. How to integrate M&E with different national planning tools such as district, regional, sector, and national development plans, keeping streamlined at all levels without losing the value of each planning tool, goals, namely service delivery, regional coordination, sector policy implementation, and meeting national indicators and output targets. I think that a lot of the questions that are being asked are really like comments and really amazing questions that are enriching this conversation. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for that question. Most obviously, we have to align our M&E work with the wider goals and indices. That's why we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, our National Action Plan. I've done extensive work in the National Mental Health Action Plan in Kenya, for instance. So we do not only integrate what we see at the global and national level, but apart from that, as an expert, you also need to complement it. You also need to, as an expert, sometimes advise the government, on perhaps your knowledge on M&E and what needs to be improved in for instance, the National Mental Health Plan. Just because governments come up with all these documents does not mean they are always right. They always know what to do. So obviously in the public sector, it's also sometimes about compliance. So it's also about aligning to the national M&E framework and plan. And in order that we measure achievements also at that national level. Like in health services, we have very, very clear documentation that now, for instance, in Kenya, we have at a county level. And so all our data is now being tracked because health is a devolved function and we have the counties. And so it's not just, the M&E work, the little work you do at your corner anymore. It's about linkages and integrations. I hope I've answered you, Ahmed.
Thank you. take another one in the chat.
All right, sure. So I have another question from Filippo Comba. Does evaluation design applied for evaluation purpose differ from research design? Filippo, I will refer you to the previous webinar that we did. I see your question is squarely on that. If you go to the Strategia Netherlands YouTube channel, you will see that we had another webinar. You'll just type Dr. Wangari under the Strategia Netherlands, and you will actually get an entire presentation on the difference between evaluation design and research design. But in a nutshell, the answer is yes, they are different. Evaluation is about measuring impact, measuring success of projects. Research design is only about for the sake of quenching the dust of knowledge. So research design is distinctly different from evaluation design, and you can get more information, as I said, from the YouTube channel. Please do not take those previous recordings for granted. Kindly go back and be able to do that. I'll try to answer all the questions according to the scope of today's presentation. Some may be more advanced today, but I'll try to incorporate all of that. I hope I answered you, Filippo. All right. Please give us your response if you are well answered or if you still have a question. Epi Oleaes says, could you please explain more about the linking within the type of methodology and the type of project? Thank you. Thank you so much, Epi, for that question. Yes, there is a linking between a type of methodology and the type of project. Let me stop my video so that you can hear me clearly. And that is related to the other question that somebody asked on a specific topic they are doing, and they needed some help with that. Let me see if I can find it so that I answer both together. So somebody is doing research on water and sanitation and needed help to know which theory is best, okay? So remember that you can always look at the different monitoring and evaluation theories and see which one best matches your idea of your evaluation project or your idea of your scholarly work you're going to be doing an evaluation project. And therefore, there are quite a number of evaluation theories. Again, this might be a subject for a different day, but there are what we call popular project management methodologies, and you can see for what they are best suited. We talk about agile methodology, Scrum methodology, Kanban methodology, Lean methodology, waterfall methodology, Six Sigma, PMI, PMBOK. So what you need to do basically is have maybe a conversation if you're in school with your professor in order to see how you can narrow down the project management methodology to what is best suited to get the job right, okay? So remember we said methodology is a system of practices, techniques, procedures, and rules for those who work in a discipline. So how do you choose a methodology? You've got to look at and compare. There's no such thing as the right methodology. So there's nothing perfect for every single project. It depends on the project scope, requirements. So it means the right methodology to implement will also vary. It might even vary over time, okay? So you want to make sure to maximize the use of resources and time, okay? So for instance, the agile project management methodology, it's about getting clear measurable structures for iteration. Iteration is what we say back and forth, team collaboration, change recognition. I cannot take a single session, to go through all of these methodologies. So again, a Google search will really assist in a conversation on your specific question. And so that is connected to Sherry Osman's Mohammed's question on, he asks, can you share some M&E theories to help me in my thesis? And even gives the title of the thesis, Assessing M&E Capacity in the Water and Sanitation at the Subnational Level in Ghana. You might want to check the utilization-based theory because this sounds like, a sort of like the utilization. Again, just giving the title doesn't give every detail about your topic. So again, it's good to run it with your professors if you're in school, or check out where you can narrow down out of the project management methodologies that are actually just found on the internet. I hope I've answered you, both Epi and Sheriff. I've tried to combine your questions. So Teresina Ciedunarine asks, sorry if I butcher your name, difficulty with donors who require tangible outcomes regarding early intervention projects designed for children with severe special needs. How can we design our projects for these donors? Any advice? Or this is very common, especially also in my field of mental health, because sometimes outcomes are not tangible. You might have struggled with getting exactly whether, children with severe special needs are moving in the direction of the project. And these are the direct beneficiaries, but you may not have, always accurate ways of measuring outcomes. But we know out of expertise in the field of special needs, we know that there are certain ways to take approximate measures of outcomes, okay? We talk about project outcomes, we talk about project outputs, what we want to see. So in a project outcome where the donor says, oh, this is not tangible, we can't measure it. So how do you design your project for the donor? And in order to ensure that there's still money flowing, that can be quite a daunting challenge. But I would say, try to see how clearly you can define what is easily seen, felt, or noticed. So an example of a tangible outcome, for instance, if you're working with children with severe or special needs, is you can say maybe the performance of these children in terms of even just attendance, for instance, okay? So remember, this outcome might be more tangible of attendance. It is contrasted with maybe an intangible result, like, for instance, building a relationship with the special need caregiver, you see? So some of these things are quite intangible. Those of us in social sciences like myself, we do a lot of intangible work. So how do you then show that there has been an impact, there has been a movement? I experienced that a lot also in mental health. How do you actually show that? So try as much as possible to give something that is more clearly measurable, and using SMART goals, and you can use experts in the field of special needs to help you design what that would look like. So I hope I've answered you. Remember, project management work has to work alongside experts in other fields in order to really get the language of, for instance, special needs and how you check for progress. Okay, I hope I've answered you, Teresina. Omar, what is the difference between efficacy, efficiency, and effectiveness? Ooh, that's like a tongue twister. But we had already said the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. We shall not repeat that. And can anybody add what is the difference between efficacy and the other two? So we know efficacy is the ability to produce a desired or intended result. Okay, efficaciousness, efficacy. Okay. So when we talk about efficacy versus efficiency, all right? So efficacy is about getting things done. It's the ability to produce the desired amount of the desired effect or success. But efficiency is about economy, doing things in the most economical way, the ratio of the output to the input. So you want a good input to output ratio. Then now we have effectiveness. So between efficacy and effectiveness, efficacy is the degree to which, we can get something done, but effectiveness is how well. So remember, the synonym for effectiveness is success. And the synonym for efficiency is economy. And the efficacy idea is about, achieving the desired result, okay? So you can talk about in efficacy, I can do it right, okay? In efficiency, I can do it quickly and economically. And in effectiveness, I can do it well. So I hope that answers you. That's quite a mouthful. Thank you, Omar. Minoli says, I want to clarify two things. She's asking something more technical, so I'll skip that. Then there's an anonymous question. I'm interested in collaborating with you on a teaching project. Okay, thank you so much. I will be in touch, and through the organizers, we are always happy to have any kinds of collaborations, and that's why such spaces exist. Strategia Netherlands has done very, very well to create this space. Masan Miape says, in outlining the 5 evaluation criteria, I noticed that impact was replaced with coherence. Okay. Does that mean that we no longer consider impact in evaluation? No, I probably left that out. Thank you, Masan, for adding that. So I should be able to add impact in the evaluation criteria. So we don't just want to check for coherence, we also want to check for impact. Okay, thank you for that. A lot of the questions, as I said, are like, they're just like comments. They're very well asked. In the grand scheme of things, how does M&E and data science fit into each other? Really brilliant question from Dai Dekeda. Obviously, we know that in data science, there's a lot of analysis, and we want to actually use a lot of data science expertise, you know, in the field of monitoring and evaluation. Because in all of these cases, we are handling large amounts of data. And so for M&E, while we are keen on evaluating how things are going and their results, we want to know in data science, how data science can really improve, or assist monitoring and evaluation. So most of the time in M&E, we are doing data analysis. So, data analysis enables you to assess whether and how your project has or program has achieved both program level and population level objectives. So that's a really brilliant question. Obviously, data analysts will help us to measure. So it's quite a popular and on-demand field of study currently, because we have to use actionable information, all right? So from the ever-growing amount of data, then we can now talk about M&E. So brilliant questions there. A lot more questions are coming up as we continue. Gaupotlake Masunda says, what are the typical areas I should cover in preparation for an M&E coordinator interview position? Oh, wow. We should have another webinar just on that. But obviously, if you go online and just type that either on YouTube or on a normal search engine, you'll be able to get sample questions for your interview. If your interview will take a general nature, they might want to know your experience and qualifications, but the technical parts of M&E coordination work, you must prove your competence and your confidence in doing this work. And so you might want to be ready also for the technical bit. A lot of the concepts that I've mentioned today might come in handy. So all the best in your interview tomorrow. Potlake. All right. Basse says, you have briefly touched on M&E plan and M&E framework. In practicing M&E, which of those two comes first or needs to be established first to set a basis for the other to follow? Okay, and then somebody else is saying, please answer. I think I've answered you, Minoli. I answered you earlier. So Francisca, on the difference between an M&E plan and an M&E framework. Obviously, we know that an M&E plan is part of a M&E framework, okay? And we had mentioned in passing components of a framework. And I say that I may not be able today to go through each one of these things. That's why we have, a very big body of knowledge. Sorry, let me say that again. An M&E framework is one part of an M&E plan, okay? So the M&E framework describes how the whole M&E system for the project or program or organization or the company works, okay? So when we talk about a project M&E system, it covers all the work carried out during or after a project to define, select, collect, analyze, and use information. So an M&E framework is just one part of our plan. We have so many terms. We even have an M&E matrix, you know? So you'll see that completing the M&E matrix or the framework requires detailed knowledge of the project and the project context. But an M&E plan will include other events that make it possible to understand the context, you know, reflect and learn lessons, you know. So basically, you've got to distinguish between the framework, which outlines the parameters of the approach, you know, to evaluate a program at multiple times, and a plan, which just outlines how an evaluation will be conducted at an operational level. So those are key concepts and, you know, very, very good questions there. How to set an effective parliamentary M&E logical framework? That's a really good question. So Memunatu Bangura, and you're in the Parliament of Sierra Leone. So obviously, I will not go into that, how to set up a logical framework. Let us have another day to discuss the details of that. Some of the questions are not from the introduction level. They are quite more advanced. So let me skip that for today. Kailash, have you any model for CIAT, NCE mode, M&E? I'm not sure what that is. Maybe somebody else in the Zoom meeting can answer that. Oh, sorry, you've asked it again. Have you any model for distance mode, M&E model? Okay, so maybe somebody else can answer that. Somebody asked, what is evaluation? So Halima, you were trying to unmute earlier and you had asked what evaluation is. Really good question. And I'm going to attempt, you know, to just answer you again, although I had said it in quite detail, what evaluation is. So, you know, we have the completed phases of projects, or we have an entire completed project that needs to be evaluated, okay? So therefore, when we talk about evaluation, what are we doing? We are determining what works well and what could be improved in a program, simple as that. So evaluation seeks in a systematic way to determine and assess the extent to which the merit, worth, and significance of the complete project has been delivered. All right. Thank you so much for that question, Halima, but we had already covered it. I was sure you had come in late. Halima, you also asked the difference between efficiency and effectiveness. I will not repeat that. Filippo says, can you explain a bit about data flow? So as we said earlier, in M&E work, we are primarily working with data amongst other things, you know. Again, I have not covered that in the presentation, so I'm not sure if all these questions are coming from people who joined us later. Okay, so allow me to just mention that the process of gathering data generated from various activities implemented by an organization and that are relevant to the M&D is what we say is called data flow. So we can use spreadsheets, you know, to just check every indicator by describing the who, the how, the when of the data collection. So that is what we mean when we talk about data flow. So what is data flow in M&E? It's the process of gathering data generated from various activities. So you can obtain data from original sources and using tools, paper or electronic, you can collate the data, analyze the data, report the data. So we need that data flow process. And there are steps, and I'll not go into all of those details and components right now. But that is a good question inside the body of M&E. You notice that I'll be taking an overview of some of the questions because they were not in the introduction level. A lot of them are mostly advanced type of topics. So Mohammed says, and Filippo says, okay, Dr. Wangari, yeah, I'm trying my best to incorporate all questions, but remember, we cannot cover every single thing in M&E in a single session, okay? So Mohammed gives a comment. Some people use outcomes in place of impact. Good point. David Owaga says, what is the position of data? I've already answered that. And at what time should data personnel be involved in the M&E process? I think I've already done that. So Kumaru say how to monitor and evaluate parliamentary departmental annual working plans. Really good point. This body of knowledge in M&E, and if you join the courses offered by Strategia, will give you quite in-depth information, you know. There's a lot of questions also in the chat. I'm trying to track the ones in the Q&A box. And what's the difference between log frame and monitoring framework? And that was asked by an anonymous attendee. Okay, so a lot of questions, as I said, are not part of what we had covered. Okay, and these are not issues we can complete in one single sitting. But when we say log frame or logical framework, it's probably the most important document in project planning and in the M&E process. And it's particularly valued by donors. So when we talk about an M&E framework and a logical framework, you see, M&E framework, also called a resource framework, is the basis for monitoring and evaluating activities at the objectives level. However, a logical framework or log frame provides a logical interpretation of the relationship between inputs, activities, outputs, outcomes, and impacts with respect to objectives and goals. So quite different, you know, when you're talking about logic, linear interpretation, and then results framework, checking activities at the objective level. So I hope I've answered you. All right. What factors are good to consider when selecting an M&E tool? Oh, wow, let's do that another day. How do you promote learning in monitoring and evaluation work? How do you promote learning? So a lot of you see, a lot of you are asking deeper questions that are taking us deeper into M&E. It's very exciting, but I know our time is up. I think there must be a system because the questions are increasing as the time has ended. And as I monitor, in the spirit of monitoring, I will request to have any extra questions sent to me so that I can, over time, just take them. A lot of them are individual based, one-on-one, and so I'll hand back over to you, John. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. Someone asked a question on, do we have courses offered in French for the Francophone countries? Yes, we have a program, similar courses offered in French. You can send an email to french@strategianetherlands.nl. And someone else asked, where do you get this recording? And I want to answer and say, tomorrow you can visit our YouTube channel, and you will find the recording of this presentation from Dr. Joyce. And there are about 55 other videos. In fact, all the questions you're asking, you will actually find them in videos of previous presentations since the last 2 years on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe so that whenever we upload new content, you get notified. That said, I want to thank everyone for your participation. It's a great pleasure. Today we had over 450 participants from across the globe. So we thank you very much. And we need to stop there until next month. Dr. Joyce, we have closing remarks, then we call it adios, please.
Thank you so much. This was an introduction to M&E webinar, and I believe you have gotten the main concepts. Let us keep in touch for deeper conversations. Thank you all for your lovely attendance and participation.
Yes, if you're interested in the short courses that take 1 month to freshen your skills in monitoring and evaluation and all the other courses listed, please send an email to workshops at strategianetherlands.nl. And if you register from this webinar, we give you 20% discount. So send your email and Kennedy will assist you. Thank you very much, and continue enjoying the rest of the day. Until next month, thank you very much. And let's keep making the difference in the work we are doing for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Regina?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, have a good day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Let's keep planning
Yes.
and making change in the lives of our people.
Thank you.
More than 168 million people in over 50 countries are in need of humanitarian aid. Highly violent conflicts are causing widespread hunger, displacement, human suffering, death, and destruction around the world. Now more than ever, there's an acute need for skilled humanitarian manpower to match the growing need. It's time to take action and grow your career in the humanitarian sector. Welcome to Strategia Netherlands. We are an international organization that aims at making development and humanitarian work more effective. We're an independent and private provider of online and distance learning in humanitarian courses. Our mission is to provide our clients with relevant and high-quality courses to propel them to the heights of their choice careers. With over 300 exciting career-focused courses to choose from at Strategia Netherlands, our students are imparted with skills that greatly increase their prospects for employment, as well as value to employers. Our students work for international organizations such as the United Nations and national and international non-governmental organizations and various governments. You can now apply online for diploma and postgraduate courses with a flexible schedule that allows you to study and maintain full-time employment. Apply now for a diploma in monitoring and evaluation, diploma in conflict management, diploma in leadership and management, diploma in humanitarian logistics, diploma in community development, diploma in grants management, diploma in disaster management, diploma in water, sanitation and hygiene, diploma in gender development, and diploma in food security and nutrition in humanitarian emergencies. The cost for diploma courses is 800 euros, while postgraduate courses cost 1,200 euros. Visit www.strategianetherlands.eu for more information. Take action and register today.